So what happened to the Ascension, eh? This came up in a reading I did a couple of days ago. You might have seen it. Check my channel, it's there. And I thought it was worth making at least a few minutes of video about it, just because, well, it seems a great shame to me that so many of us have kind of lost sight of the fact that the big Ascension is on and happening. Around about kind of 2011, when we were all building up to 2012 and seeing, gosh, nearly hit that there, seeing huge spiritual significance in everything, a lot of people really did believe in the Ascension, you know. I'm sure a lot of us still do, maybe you do, you know. But if you do, you're probably in a minority of people now in the spiritual world. And that's a shame, because just about everyone kind of took it seriously and believed quite strongly in it. Not just in 2011, really, that, you know, right up to a couple of years ago. And I don't know, the world gets to be a harder place to live in all the time. There's no doubt about that. But we are on a transition into the age of Aquarius. And it's very easy to forget that. That's the trouble. Transitions don't happen easily. That's a fact. You know, this life isn't an easy thing at all. It's never been meant to be. And people who have it really easy in this life are few and far between. And I tend to think they must have lived pretty amazing past lives to be entitled to do that now. But who knows how all that works, eh? It's just a matter of faith, really. And you know, I look back to my childhood in the 1960s and 70s. Life seemed so much simpler then, and in many ways life seemed better. But was it? Well, it was certainly simpler. But you know, everything that's come along in the modern age has come along because of human nature and because of what people have wanted, whether it's people in high places or you and me or whatever. It's all something people have wanted. Like we have all this electronic surveillance nowadays, don't we? Which we never had back then. But when I think back to my childhood, I grew up next door to a great big church, a massive church, which now when it meets has like a handful of people standing around. Not much going on there at all, because there aren't enough people to put money in to make things happen. Speaking of which, we've got cows in front of us. Let's see if I can show you. Can you see them going across the... I doubt it, actually. Let's pull them to the side a bit and see if we can get them on film. Everything stops for cows in Wales, and that's something that's never changed, actually. Everything's stopping for cows in Wales. Oh, excuse me. But you know, right, okay, so I was talking about going to church in the old days. It was always full of people, and you kind of had to go to church on Sunday, otherwise people would think you're something a bit, you know, dodgy about you, something iffy there. And if you wanted to get a good job, you had to go to church. And there were people there, like I remember there's a deaconess who used to dress like a nun, but she lived out in the community. She was quite a kind-hearted lady. I'm not saying anything bad about her here, but she would look down very strongly upon anyone who wasn't kind of towing the social line and being normal. And you know, we sort of had to have the approval of everyone. All the ladies who went to that church would wear a hat, and it was a sea of hats on a Sunday packed out to the doors, because that was the kind of surveillance we had in those days. Either that, or people looking out of their windows and twitching their curtains to see what was going on. But people were actually watching each other all the time in those days. I totally remember it. If you didn't open your curtains in the morning, people would assume that someone must have died in the house, because you know, very unrespectable not to open your curtains. So you know, there was surveillance going on. So although the times have changed, and although, you know, things seem so much harder now with security cameras everywhere, and You know, as I'm recording this, this information that I'm putting out now is probably being gathered up and being put on a server somewhere in the back of Beyond, where no one will ever look at it, but it's there just in case anyone ever wants to investigate me for something. There's no getting away from it now, but there was no getting away from it then either. And as life seems to get heavier, oh, we're moving. Oh, no, we're not. As life seems to get heavier and harder, I wonder if it really is, or is it just changing? Difficult to say, really difficult to say. With everything that's going on in the world at the moment, money has changed. We can't easily spend cash anymore. Everyone wants contactless card payments, so there's always a record, you know. I'm going to a shop now, there'll be a record that I was at that shop, and they'll know who else was at that shop while I was at it. Heavy, you know. And it seems to be becoming a soulless kind of a world, doesn't it? But really it isn't, you know. It really isn't, because there are so many people around who are actually feeling that soullessness and wishing that things could be different and wishing that things could improve. And you know what will happen in time? They will, because when we get to the age of Aquarius, which I dare say is still a very long way in the future, it is a much more people-centered time, you know, and we are seeing a move towards that actually in the pandemic and everything that's going on. You've got people working from home. It's no longer possible to, or not, for most people who were that way before, it's no longer possible to get a job where you watch people get on with your work. People just know they've got to get on with their work and send it in. But people have always known they had to get on with their work. Employers just spent a fortune on managers to go around saying, oh, you're no good, get on with that. So it's becoming much more people-centered in one way or another. And it's happening in a mysterious way because of electronic surveillance getting stronger to go with it. But as the world changes, things really are going up, and the spiritual ascension that we're really all hoping for in the spiritual community, that really is happening apace. There is no escape from it for the people who don't want the world to go that way. People who don't believe in miracles, they're screwed really, because we're seeing them all the time. And so the ascension really is happening. It's just so easy to take our eyes off it when there haven't been any big miraculous events that we can think of. And when so much, it seems to be like the work of evil almost is happening all the time. Crazy disasters and things. There's a horrible train crash in Scotland the other day. But the overall picture is that things in the worldly sense are going up, but the ascension is a spiritual thing. There are people in prison for life who are actually going through a spiritual ascension. You know, it has nothing to do with the world at all. So please, folks, don't lose faith in that spiritual ascension. That's all I've got to say. And times have been quite hard for me, and I dare say they will be again. But at the moment, I'm laughing in lots of ways. Lots of things are going well. And so, you know, really, I've got nothing to complain about. So you won't hear me complaining, which is no bad thing. But keep your eyes on the prize. The prize is up there. I'm always saying it, you know, the answers are up there. It's all about going up. If we allow ourselves to go down, down is exactly where we're going to go. There's going to be no stopping it. And there's one more thing I want to say about miracles, actually. It's a bit off the cuff, actually, but I just watched a movie about Saint Bernadette, and it says at the beginning of it, to those who believe in God, no explanation is needed. To those who don't believe in God, no explanation is possible. And that is the mysterious world of the Ascension, so keep that in mind, friends. Thanks very much for watching. If anybody would like a reading or astrology, I've got birth chart software now. Lots of people ask me, and at last I've got birth charts available. Drop me an email, leave me a comment or something. Let me know and I'll see what I can do for you. That will be a pleasure. Leave me a comment anyway. It's always good to share the journey. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Meanwhile, thanks for watching. I'll see you again very soon. Peace.